All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving deep into the absolute foundational blueprint of corporate venture building. If you're looking to cut through all the noise and just get straight to the bedrock mechanics of customer discovery, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to break down the core elements of customer discovery and validation and really examine the precise steps you need to take to build a successful corporate venture right from the ground up.
So, who is your real customer? I know. It sounds deceptively simple, right? But honestly, this is the central mystery we have to solve today. You know, so many ventures completely flop because they build for this imaginary profile that literally doesn't exist in the real marketplace. Finding the actual answer to this question, that's the ultimate objective of this whole journey we're about to take.
Okay, Section 1, the Discovery Blueprint. Let's look at the foundational text that sets up everything we're about to unpack.
Let's just dive right into the core directive here. Quote, "In this module, participants will examine how to identify real customers and conduct in-depth interviews to guide the customer discovery process for the corporate venture." Now, that single sentence basically contains the entire operational DNA for venture validation. If you understand the mechanics operating within that one statement, you've pretty much grasped the entire philosophy of validating a venture.
So, let's break down these twin pillars, customer discovery and customer validation. Like we said, this is the absolute bedrock of the process. Discovery is all about finding out who might actually want what you're building, while validation is about proving it before you scale up. And they are completely inseparable. You just can't successfully build a corporate venture without rigorously identifying your customers and then actively guiding your decisions based on what you learn from them. To make this super actionable, the text demands a very explicit chronological journey. Step 1, identify real customers. Step 2, conduct in-depth interviews. And Step 3, guide the venture. You can't skip a step, and you definitely cannot reverse the order. I mean, you can't conduct interviews if you haven't figured out who to talk to, and you certainly can't guide the corporate venture without the actual data those interviews provide. It's a strictly logical progression designed to mitigate risk at literally every single turn.
Moving right along to Section 2, identifying real customers. Let's get our hands a little dirty in the active identification phase.
Now, the distinction here is absolutely crucial. We're talking about real customers versus assumed ones. An assumed customer relies on unverified hypotheses, your own internal biases, maybe just wishful thinking. But a real customer, they bring a verifiable problem that your venture can actually solve. And honestly, the distance between an assumed customer and a real customer is very often the distance between a venture failing and succeeding.
Which begs the question, how do we actually identify them? How do we separate the real people from these dangerous little phantoms we've dreamt up? You can't just guess, and you definitely can't just blast out some anonymous survey. The blueprint requires a very specific mechanism for this.
And that brings us to Section 3, in-depth interviews. This reveals the exact active method prescribed for finding those folks.
Now, what's really interesting here is the explicit modifier. It demands in-depth interviews. Casual conversations, quick focus groups, no way. Those will absolutely not satisfy this blueprint. You really need to get beneath the surface level of what a person says and dig into the root causes of their behavior, their pain points, and what they truly need. It's tough. It requires time, patience, and a highly structured approach to interviewing.
Let's look at the exact activities required of us. We need to examine how to identify, conduct the in-depth interviews, and guide the discovery process. Notice that these are all continuous, active verbs. As a participant, you're examining, you're conducting, you're guiding. You are not just some passive recipient of data. You are the literal engine driving the venture's understanding of the entire market.
Okay, on to our final piece, Section 4, guiding the corporate venture. So, what's the ultimate destination of all this incredibly hard work?
Well, the target of this entire process is the corporate venture itself. All the validation, all those hours spent conducting interviews, it all flows directly back to form the directional compass for your business. It acts as the protective armor for what you're trying to build.
So the crucial takeaway here hinges on the definition of the word guide. In our source text, the interviews are conducted to guide the customer discovery process. This brilliantly illustrates that discovery isn't just about collecting a bunch of static data, tossing it into a spreadsheet and forgetting about it. To guide means to actively steer the ship. Every single insight you gain from a real customer during those in-depth interviews, that should be used to pivot, to adjust, and to direct the venture. You're dynamically shaping the business based on actual validated reality.
So,
let me leave you with this. How will you apply this discovery process to your own venture? The methodology is crystal clear, right? Find real customers, dig deep, and actively steer your ship. But the execution? Well, that's entirely up to you. You've got the blueprint, so get out there, find those real customers, and start asking the hard questions.